Hey folks, good Thursday evening. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandajis here with you alongside meteorologist Evan Stewart, and we join you again with the ongoing severe weather threat across at least portions of Hampton roads in northeastern North Carolina. You'll see radar behind me here does show the focus of any storm activity now well down to the south. And if we can go big here, I want to show you how much lightning there's been out there. And this is accounting for lightning in this entire window you're seeing here. Look at these strikes. These are similar to last night, but remember it was over a larger area. This is just confined to this area here, 1,500 strikes just over the last hour, and these have pretty much been on a track to east, or from west to east, meaning they're moving over the same area and prompting a flooding threat as well in a lot of these spots. Now, there is some embedded severe weather, including a tornado warning cell here that's right over Columbia, and this is in Terrell County, and it is drifting off to the east-southeast. So outside of our viewing area now, but it does include Columbia over to Scotia and Alligator, just to the south of Lewis Point. And eventually, if it does hold together, it was likely a water spout that emerged on shore near Columbia. If it does hold together and make it into Dare County, we'll see what it looks like at that point. But you can certainly see that there's an indicator of a hail core there. And if we switch over and look at velocities and move it a little farther south to tap into the Morehead City radar, which is the National Weather Service office that did issue that tornado warning, you can see there is definitely a signature of some spin here. This is an interesting area of the country, or it's almost like an overlapping area for two Weather Service radars. So we're shooting very high out, getting only a sampling of the tops of the storms here pretty much. But overall, this is a rotating supercell right near Columbia that could potentially, radar indicated, have a tornado associated with it. However, I think the more impactful thing right now is this anomalous hail core here sitting right on top of Columbia. We have not seen a hail signature like this in quite some time, and we could be approaching larger than egg size. You look at some of these numbers here, approaching over 2 inches. So 2 inches roughly is egg-sized hail. So it could possibly be a little bit larger than that right over River Neck Road. Again, this is Terrell County in northeastern North Carolina, outside of the 13 News Now viewing area. However, it is tracking slowly to the east-southeast and may be impacting inland Dare County in another hour or so. It's a rather slow-moving cell here. This entire line is very slow-moving, but all of these cells that have generated over the last hour or so have had a legacy of putting down some large hail. We saw several indicators of at least golf ball-sized hail, which would be up to around an inch in diameter or so. And now we're seeing even larger hail as they continue to mature and intensify. So you see that hail core there. We've got another one that passed through Windsor. It was on a weakening trend, though, as it moved through Windsor. And you can see going back here, there's actually a separate hail core that was northwest of Windsor, fell apart, and a secondary hail core developed southern Bertie, headed towards Woodard. This is around maybe 3/4 of an inch diameter hail, so just under golf ball size. Still large hail if it is reaching the ground at that size. A lot of times when the radar samples these, it doesn't take into account melting. So this is likely not as large when it hits the ground as what the radar is indicating there. You have that hail core in Terrell, and then you get over towards portions of Dare, coastal Dare County, seeing some remnants of a larger hail core earlier. But really, we're just watching for the heavy rainfall still. We've got the ongoing tornado warning out in Terrell here. Let me put the numbers on it for you, or the stats on that tornado warning coming up here. Terrell right through 7 o'clock, so it's up for another 24 minutes. Again, outside the 13 News Now viewing area, but right over here is inland Dare County. So we'll see if this holds together. Certainly, it's got damaging hail potential with this, as well as the gusty, damaging winds and the potential, too, being thrown on top of all that of there being an embedded tornado. So we'll have to watch that carefully. You see the trajectory of it heading to the east and southeast. But, Evan, a lot of activity here south of the Albemarle, but really to the north, it has been a very pleasant late spring afternoon.
It really has, Tim. I've been watching, actually, some of the thunderstorms just to the west of there. And again, I know this is out of our viewing area, but we have a confirmed tornado on the ground that is just outside of Williamston, North Carolina. So between Williamston and Greenville, I know a lot of folks, might have kids that are there at ECU. I'm not sure when their graduation is. It might have been this past weekend with Mother's Day. But again, we're looking at something that we rarely see here, a confirmed tornado down through that part of North Carolina. Again, if you're watching us streaming here through Virginia right now, not seeing much. Here's a look at live radar across, the rest of Hampton roads, and it's, high and dry across the eastern shore, south side peninsula, middle peninsula, northern neck, although there are a couple of thunderstorms off towards our north and west, up around Harrisonburg. and Wires Cave and Ruckersville. So those storms are also approaching the Charlottesville area. So I know some folks might have family that is up there in Charlottesville and around UVA. So there's still the potential, even later this evening and into the early part of the overnight, that one or two of these storms that, if they can hold together, might not be enough time, but they might impact some of the far northern western parts of Hampton Roads. But of course, the area definitely under the gun, just massive amounts of lightning. As you can see, over 1,600 strikes now, all south of the Albemarle Sound. I'll take that lightning off of there so we can see and dive into some of those storms as well. We have a flash flood warning that is also in effect right now for Roanoke Island. We've seen heavy, heavy rain just for hours and hours, it almost feels like. And as we take a look at US 64 in Manio, you can just see the heavy rain that is coming down there. This is US 64 at NC 345 Midway there on Roanoke Island. And we've seen that heavy rain that has been coming down there, quite a bit as we have gone through this afternoon and now transition into the evening. Get back to the severe thunderstorm warning that is also in effect for Terrell County and Dare County. So from Kill Devil Hills down towards Manio and all the way down towards Oregon Inlet, that includes Nags Head, and then over towards mainland Dare County as well. Again, a lot of central Dare County. There's not a lot of population there. You got the Dare County bombing range and stuff that goes on down there. But let's take a look in our Skyview camera there coming in at Kill Devil Hills. And again, we've got the dark skies that are there just on that northern edge of where that heavy rain is falling there in the Outer Banks of Dare County. Mainland Dare County, back over towards Columbia and Terrell County, we do have, as Tim was pointing out, that pink color there. That's an indication of hail, and that hail core not quite as big as what it was, but that's still looking at 1.5 inches hail. Let's switch over and take a look at the winds that we're seeing with that. Not as much in, we still have a little bit of that green and blue, and green and red that are right next to each other. That would indicate some kind of rotation. It's not looking as well organized as it was just a little bit earlier. But if that storm does hold together, it'll cross over the Alligator River and then move into mainland Dare County. So it would be just south of East Lake down towards Buffalo City. And then again, you can see as you get down in there, not as much in the way of those streets and some of those roads as you get around the Dare County bombing range and stuff. Again, heavy, heavy rain. Let's take a look at that 3-hour rainfall total down along the Outer Banks there. And you can see 2.5, 3 inches. And that's likely causing flooding there on Roanoke Island and over towards Highway 12 in the Outer Banks there. As you get down towards South Oregon Inlet Trail, just south of Whalebone Junction, right there. You start to get into some of the less populated area. Once you get south of Whalebone, you get more into some of those, beach cottages and stuff down there. And then you start to work down towards the Cape Hatteras National Seashore. So you get down towards the Body Island Lighthouse and stuff. You start to see less and less of the way of the population there. But certainly some heavy rain, I have to imagine. I haven't seen any reports out of Highway 12 recently, but I have to imagine there are some issues with flooding there as well. The good news is it looks like some of that heavy rain is now pushed offshore, but still copious amounts of lightning there. In the last hour, almost 900 lightning strikes along the Outer Banks, and we're still watching that one storm that is over Columbia. Likely started out as a waterspout over the Albemarle Sound that has come ashore near Scotia. Seeing that heavy rain over towards Alligator. Again, get in there to some of those streets, and you're talking about Frying Pan Road, Timberlake Road, around the community of Jerry Mills Ridge. Again, this is just outside of our official viewing area, but I'm sure we have some folks who are watching, our stream, and certainly as this crosses over the Alligator River, there's that potential that this warning could be extended into Dare County. So that's something that we're continuing to watch closely as well. And if you're in Virginia, not seeing much right now, and we might not see much as we go here through the remainder of the evening. We'll just have to watch and see if anything does try to pop up, but it looks like it's really focused right along and south of the Albemarle Sound, Tim.
Yeah, and you mentioned how in Virginia there's not a whole lot going on. There's an active severe thunderstorm watch that does exclude the majority of the 7 cities. So it's south into northeastern North Carolina where we've been focusing most of our attention thus far, with many warnings, a few tornado warnings in there as well, again, just outside and south of the Albemarle Sound. And then there's a secondary sector that could light up. It has yet to do so, or get initiated or activate off to the west of I-95, where there is the majority of the rest of that severe thunderstorm watch. That's along I-95 up towards Richmond, up towards Charlottesville and the I-81 corridor until midnight tonight. So again, like yesterday, we saw all of this get cooked up by the daytime heating. And once that sun sets past 8 o'clock tonight, we'll likely begin to see some of this begin to really fall apart. But for now, at least, the activity is really isolated down to the south. And as Evan was mentioning, I'm going to start off here with the window image of all the storms that are going on now. Yesterday, it was set up oriented from south to north along I-95. Pretty much from Emporia all the way up to Richmond. Today, it's oriented from west to east, pretty much along and south of the Albemarle Sound, Washington, Terrell, over to Dare counties, seeing the heaviest of the rain from Bertie, even southern portions of Chowan County now, with just a ton of lightning. The atmosphere is still highly electrified due to the high dew points that are in place. That dew point increases instability, increases storm development, and in essence increases the electrical charge within the clouds, and it discharges in frequent lightning. And so we've got 1,500 strikes on the counter here, which is on par with what we saw yesterday at the peak of the storms. And we'll probably see it overachieve here as we still have another 90 minutes of daylight here to cook things up a little bit further. But man, we are raining things out here. 1, 2, 3 inches an hour rainfall rates. Again, from the high amounts of humidity in the air right now. Let's turn off lightning and kind of get a look at some of these tornado warnings that are out there. We've got one that we haven't seen here in a while, so you may wonder what we're looking at. I mean, look at this signature, though, on radar. It's got the hook. This purplish hue around an active tornado warning is a publicly confirmed ground confirmation of a tornado being on the ground here. Again, outside of our viewing area here, not tracking into our viewing area. In fact, it's heading off to the south and east, but there is confirmation here of a tornado on the ground. In fact, we can see here on radar that there is definitely a TDS, or tornado debris signature, showing up right over here. That is debris that is actively getting picked up by the tornado, lofted high enough that the radar can pick it up on its scans, and it shows up like this. So you can see even some lighter debris. This indicator here, probably some larger debris, maybe shingles from roofs or siding or that type of thing in these particular areas here that's heading off to the south and southeast near Old Fort. You can see here, if we go back and show you where we're seeing the couplet, right over here, when you get these wind shear, or these winds moving in opposing directions in close proximity to one another, we call this a couplet. And this is a good indicator that at least there's spin aloft. And in this case, it is confirmed that spin has touched the ground as a tornado moving through the area there right now. Very strong signal here of gusty, damaging winds close to the ground that's causing that debris to be lofted in that particular area. Let's switch things up here. Look at that. Yeah, you can even see near Pactolus, and south of Beargrass, there is a tornado on the ground in that area right now. According to the Weather Service, this is for Beaufort and Pitt. Again, not in the 13 News Now viewing area. In fact, you zoom things out here, and you can see just how far removed that is from our viewing area. But it is along this whole line that the line itself is impacting parts of the 13 News Now viewing area, down into Dare County, the Outer Banks, southern portions of Chowan County over into Bertie, where there's also an active severe thunderstorm warning in that area. But that's one of the 2 tornado warnings that we currently have up. That is the confirmed one. And there's a secondary one that's just radar indicated. And this was likely a waterspout that came on shore here near Columbia, and you can see it moving. It almost looks like it's weakening over Scotia, moving towards Frying Pan and Gum Neck. It looks to have a more of a south to southeast movement, and a lot of times when we get these supercells, they'll start to be right movers, right moving supercells, and basically what that is, it's moving to the right of the mean wind flow. So the storm direction here generally is off from west to east. These are intensifying and starting to move off to the right and slide to the south and east that we're seeing here. You can almost see that now almost displaced outside of the tornado-warned polygon here near Scotia. In fact, if we turn this on here, we can see where exactly that spin would be. And there's not even really a good sampling of it. That's from Wakefield. Move a little farther south. Well, it looks like that is actually Morehead City's radar that we're picking up there. If I move, to the north here, that's Wakefield's radar picking up on it. And this is probably what that's getting picked up on for that spin. Again, it's very far away. On the farthest extent, that's the extent of the radar site's telemetry to reach the velocities or get a somewhat accurate picture. But we're really kind of splitting hairs here how far out it is. Columbia, north of Gum Neck, this is over into Terrell County. An active tornado warning on there for radar indicated rotation. In terms of any indication of there being a tornado debris signature or any sort of debris, really, I think we're pretty far out here to get an accurate picture. This is, again, I think, pulling from, oh, there it is. That's pulling from Morehead City. So I don't know, maybe there could be some sort of debris. That could just also be from the gusty winds already embedded in the storm there, but nowhere near as impressive as what we're seeing with that other tornado warning here. You can see over Congleton and Witchard, that is a tornado debris signature there, just north of Leggett's Crossroads, with a confirmed tornado on the ground in that area. You can see, oh, it looks like they've actually changed that back to being a radar indicated tornado with the most recent update here out of Morehead City. Still warned in for another 11 minutes, but you can definitely see it has that reflectivity signature there, that comma shape that you can see, and likely any spin or tornado that may have just lifted again. It was publicly confirmed that it did hit the ground, so a tornado did hit the ground there. Typically, they cycle, pick back up, and they could put down again if they are moving into favorable conditions for that to happen again. But that's one tornado warning. Let's see if we've got any updates on this one. This is also until 7 o'clock. The cell that's in question here is just about to exit the warned area. Let's see here. Let me move this. Well, let's go back to Wakefield. There we go. You can see the brighter signatures here south of Columbia. This could be some broad, disorganized rotation there, but the warning up for another 11 minutes until 7 o'clock this evening. Again, elsewhere, this entire line here with the heavy downpours has a severe thunderstorm warning on it. You can see that red hue with it, and that's the tornado possible tag put in from the National Weather Service, and you can see a tornado was possible with that warning in Terrell County, and we've got Dare County, inland Dare County here under the severe thunderstorm warning, and that does extend over to Roanoke Island, Nags Head, into Kill Devil Hills as well. Same areas that got crushed just a couple hours ago, seeing it just kind of streaming in your general direction with almost a due east movement on this entire line. There's the radar data getting painted back on here. Not much improvement in terms of the heavy rainfall. Evan just visited some of the heaviest rain down there. Let's look at rainfall rates over the last hour. I mean, some of these, we're approaching surpassing 2 inches per hour in some of these spots. You can see some of these numbers here, over 2 inches near South Old Oregon Inlet Road, over 2.5 inches per hour in the last hour have fallen, radar indicated, from those areas. Roanoke Island here, back when we were in our newscast around 5 o'clock, so almost 2 hours ago, there were rainfall rates, again, of 2 to 3 inches per hour. So this is a secondary wave that have moved on through here. I'm actually surprised there's not a flash flood warning on there, because they had a flood advisory earlier for all of that rain. There is now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Didn't realize that. Let me throw that back on here and see if I... Yep, there it is. Okay, there is a flash flood warning. My apologies. Up over Nags Head, all the way down there, including all of Roanoke Island, Manio area, crossing the bridge, 264 to get over into the Outer Banks there, with just extremely heavy rainfall that looks to be ongoing at least for a while longer. Now, to the north, Evan was mentioning there's just nothing going on here. This is the areas that were excluded from any severe thunderstorm watches, not including Suffolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, the entire peninsula, Middle Peninsula, or Eastern Shore. Those are all outside of the severe thunderstorm watch. It's really what may, and I say may because we're not seeing a whole lot. I mean, you have to go all the way up here north of Charlottesville to see any action in this entire area. And there are dual severe thunderstorm warnings, and you can see there actually a tornado warning that's north of Charlottesville. Both of these warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, have the tag on them with the red hue of a tornado being possible. So there's already spin here. These are supercells coming down off the mountains, and they'll pick up momentum and speed as they drop south. So they'll likely track right along I-64 to the northwest of Richmond here as we approach sunset. And whatever remains from those cells may survive and bring some showers into portions of our area. Again, that'll be well after sunset. and the severe threat will greatly diminish by that point in time. But overall, that's what we're watching currently in those areas, Evan. Just very quiet in those spots. Near Roanoke earlier, there were a few storms, but those all fizzled.
Yeah, we've got we just got a law enforcement confirmed that tornado that we were talking about.
Oh, there it is.
That second storm now. We've gotten several reports. Again, this is just outside of our area, but this is approaching, areas around Washington. It's moving into Beaufort County now, Leggett's Crossroads and Old Fort. And, we've been looking at that storm. You can see that classic sort of hook that is in there with the storm. That's the first thing you kind of look at. And that's, even going back to some of the old radar days before you had all the algorithms and everything that can, decipher and take a look. But when you start seeing, those kind of hooks right there, that's an indication of a tornado. And now we do have confirmation from law enforcement that the storm is moving right now southeast at 25, and it's about 11 miles northeast of Greenville, moving southeast at 25. So again, you can see that storm is one that we're watching, but also the other tornado warning that goes here for about another 6 minutes that is here in Terrell County around Columbia, and we're still seeing some of those pink colors showing up and around Scotia. And as this continues to work south and east towards Frying Pan, we'll have to see, we're kind of in this strange area where we're right at the border between the two National Weather Service offices, but the
Weather Service said they're actually out of Morehead City will not be continuing this warning after it expires at 7 o'clock. So that's some good news there. That will be allowed to expire. We'll monitor it and see if it does get eventually rewarned. But also this large severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag is set to expire in 6 minutes as well. And we'll see if they just kind of alter that and maybe just have a warning on this particular area that looks to be a little bit more intense. But this tornado warning in Terrell set to expire and will be allowed to expire without any extension in 6 minutes at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock, Evan.
Yeah, and so on that north edge there, as we go into the Albemarle Sound, we are seeing that heavy rain once again along the Chowan River. I remember we were talking about this yesterday, right there along 17, the bridge as you go past Edenton, working your way over the Chowan River into Bertie County, around Black Rock, and Wharf Landing Road right there, certainly some heavy rain with that updated sweep that comes around just north of Edenton up towards Hancock and getting up towards Rocky Hawk. There we're seeing in Chowan County a little bit of that pink. So we can take a look at that hail signature, and there is a bit of a hail signature with that, getting close to 1 inch in diameter. So we'll have to watch that, see if the Weather Service in Wakefield decides that there should be a warning on that. I would, while we don't issue our own warnings, I would certainly say if you're in Edenton, if you're in Rocky Hawk, in Chowan County, Barber, be on the lookout for, the possibility of some hail as this storm continues to sort of work its way east. And then it'll be moving into Perquimans County, right along 17 up towards Yopum Station in Hertford. And, right along those north banks there of the Albemarle Sound, we could see those thunderstorms continuing to sort of fire up. The general movement for the individual cells is certainly to the southeast, but there is a little bit of a build on that north edge of it. So we'll have to see what happens there in Chowan County, but certainly if you're in the southern half of Chowan County, southern half of Perquimans County, be aware that there is the possibility of some small hail and some heavy rain that is coming your way, and certainly quite a bit of lightning, nothing like we're still seeing down along the Outer Banks. I want to take a look at that camera once again down there from Kill Devil Hills. And again, you can see just that rain coming down. This is looking at this is the monument cam there over towards the Wright Brothers Memorial, which you can see there sort of on the right-hand side of the screen. And you can just see that rain coming down in buckets. And it has been for quite a while now. And we do have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning that just came in. We were talking about southern Chowan County, southern Perquimans County, and there is that brand new severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect for Chowan, Pasquotank, and Perquimans County until 7:30. So I was saying, we don't issue our own warnings, but I was certainly watching it, and there goes the National Weather Service following along, saying that they have decided to issue that severe thunderstorm warning as well. Some of the text on that warning, coming in, quarter-size hail. We had mentioned that wind gusts of 60 miles per hour. And of course, winds, when you get them gusting up to 60, that can do wind damage to trees and power lines. That small hail could also cause some damage to cars. Again, we're talking about quarter-size hail. So there we have that brand new severe thunderstorm warning for Chowan, Pasquotank, and Perquimans County, and that runs until 7:30, and that's for that thunderstorm that we were talking about that's working there right along the northern banks of the Albemarle Sound. So let's get in there. I mentioned some of these areas earlier. Give you a little bit of a closer look up 32, Greenhall Road, Rocky Hawk Road, just south of Cisco. You can see some of that live lightning coming in, Macedonia Road, just north of downtown Edenton. So it's riding right there, right along 17 and the bypass to Edenton. It does extend, again, into southern Pasquotank and Perquimans County. It includes Jaycox, Nixonton, Hertford, does not include areas up towards Elizabeth City. So it is just a very, very, very small part of Pasquotank County. It's mainly Perquimans, and right now Chowan County is seeing some of the heaviest of the rain with that storm. And right now it is moving to the east at 25 miles per hour. So I'm going to put the track on that. Follow it here to the east at 25 to give you some other locations. Cisco 702, Yopum Station 711, Hertford 723, New Hope proper 732, Durant at 741. So that again is right there, pretty much right along Highway 17 in northeastern North Carolina. So again, we can see that heavy rain that's coming down there along the outer banks of North Carolina. And that's from that thunderstorm as well. That thunderstorm warning is set to expire here in about another 20 seconds. So we'll see that disappear from the graphic. As Tim mentioned, the Weather Service office out of Morehead City is going to allow that to expire at 7 o'clock. And checking in Wakefield's office, we are going, they've canceled the one for Bertie County. There you can see those warnings have now disappeared from the map. We still have the flash flood warning that is in effect for Roanoke Island and a little bit of the outer banks of Dare County. And then we still have that one tornado warning just outside of our area, now pushing towards Little Washington and down towards Beaufort County. And let's see what are the other counties that are on that now as well, because it has certainly been extended. Beaufort and Pitt still. So that's right, Beaufort kind of loops around the river there. So Beaufort and a little bit of Pitt County. I would say Pitt County is pretty much out of the, for the most part, it's a little bit right there along the river, pretty much out of the threat from that storm that continues to move to the southeast. Again, if you're joining in, watching us from Virginia, not much going on here across the Old Dominion until you get all the way up towards Harrisonburg and Charlottesville, where we have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings and a tornado warning. Tim.
Yeah, the activity is very confined to farther to the north and west, a little bit more widespread down to the south of the Albemarle Sound. I want to revisit the only tornado warning in this cluster to the south of the Albemarle, and this is still a confirmed tornado that a spotter confirmed that there was a funnel cloud that periodically touched the ground. So it was hopscotching across this area as it came out from the northwest and has been diving to the south and east. And as we were watching this, we did identify what looked to be a tornado debris signature. Right now, that seems to have lifted. But if we go back just a little bit, you can see where that was indicated here. Let's go back to right there. So if you see right to the southwest of Beargrass, this is what we're talking about here. This circular here near Congleton earlier, this was 15 minutes ago, and now it's currently set up well to the south and east there. So that TDS, that tornado debris signature with the most recent, there we go, starting to show that it's not really showing up on here anymore, which is a good thing. But again, it could be lifting and then dropping again as a tornado in that area. But again, confirmed tornado well outside of our viewing area. We have seen the severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warning that was in Terrell all be discontinued or allowed to expire at 7 o'clock. Overall, these cells are no longer severe, but they're still strong and they're still causing widespread impacts. Likely still some gusty downpours, but it's the downpours ongoing for hours that are likely going to cause our next hazard here to really flare up and that's the potential for some flash flooding. 1, 2, 2.5 inch per hour rainfall rates are persistent in this area because it's set up oriented from west to east and pretty much moving in that general direction. This is what we call training thunderstorms. Development from the west, pushing east with not really much movement north or south, so the same areas just get drenched on and on and on until the whole line just rains itself out and runs out of energy, which likely won't happen until well after sunset, so well over an hour from now. However, in our far southern portions of the 13 News Now viewing area, we do have one singular severe thunderstorm warning, and this is up for a little while until 7:30 tonight for Chowan, Pasquotank, and Perquimans. It is for this cell that is now positioned just north of downtown Edenton. You can see the pinks showing up there, and that's indicative of likely a hail core, and we can even see that here if we switch our radar imagery up and show you there is the remnants of what was a much more pronounced hail core as it was moving from Mount Gould over to the east in a Barber that has weakened a little bit, but still possibility of some quarter-sized hail and a small little nodule there well north and displaced out of Edenton, but it is eventually building to the south near Hertford in the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. Again, this is only up until 7:30. There's the new data getting painted on. It shows that slight weakening of the overall hail core, and likely still within here some very gusty winds. Indicators by radar, I mean, doesn't even show terribly high winds. Radar sampling only under 20 miles per hour in those certain spots there. So it's the heavy rain, possibility of some hail, and maybe some outside chances of some gusty winds in that cell in northern or in southern portions of Chowan, building due east, staying south of Elizabeth City and well south of the state line. There's not really any threat for severe weather as you get in the south side this evening. This looks to stay in the same general area, especially as we're getting closer to sunset now within an hour, and we'll begin to see that start to weaken over there. I do want to spend a little time on the cells that are flaring up to the north of Charlottesville. There is an embedded tornado warning in there. This is radar indicated, and it's really hard to get a sampling of a tornado when you're up over elevation. You're over the mountains here. So you're coming down off of I-81 north of Charlottesville. Could be some spin. The orography here is definitely helping to initiate some spin. But both of these cells, twin supercells here, oriented right next to each other, west to east, near Grottoes and Boonesville. They hold together. Eventually, they may slide into the Charlottesville area. So if you're watching, you're over at UVA, you live out in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, possibility of seeing some strong to severe thunderstorms if they hold together as they drift to the south and east here. That tornado warning is up for only a few more minutes, 10 more minutes in those areas. Are these cells producing hail? Yes, they are, especially the one to the west, the supercell favored on the west side here near Grottoes. This is right around 340 Port Republic area. Here's Boonesville. Charlottesville's well down to the southeast there, but we're getting indicators here. This is probably over an inch, inch and a half size hail. Let's see. Yeah, about an inch and a half size hail. So we're over quarter size, we're approaching golf ball size, and in between golf ball and egg-sized hail. Egg size would be around 2-inch diameter hail. That could be a possibility here as this drives its way on off towards the south. There's an update on radar showing it actually kind of weakening just a little bit. Back over to radar here. This is also a heavy rainmaker, as all of these have been, because there's just so much moisture content in the air. Dual severe thunderstorm warnings, both with the tag, the red hue around those polygons, indicating a tornado is possible. And then there you have it, tornado warning embedded within that cell on the east side. Again, dual severe thunderstorm warnings just to the north of Charlottesville and the I-64 corridor, about to make their way into northwestern portions of Louisa County here in the next short while. In fact, let me just see how quickly these are moving. They're moving southeast at 30 miles per hour, so let's see when they could make it towards Charlottesville. Southeast at 30. So we'll go on the western cell here. So if it holds together, Charlottesville around 7:40, so a good 30-minute lead time if you are tuning in from the western part of the state out by Charlottesville. Maybe you're watching, you've got students over there at UVA, although they're probably out almost, I'd imagine, for some.
I know NC State had graduation last week.
Yeah,
I'm not sure when UVA's graduation was.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Maybe they're still there, maybe not. But regardless, Charlottesville, pretty populated city.
It's graduation weekend, 16th through the 18th.
There you go. So that brings to light another thing. So they're setting up tents outside for the graduation ceremony. You've got severe thunderstorms with gusts to 60 miles per hour. That could be an issue in and of itself out by Charlottesville here if this cell holds together in the next 30 minutes as it cruises south and east at 30 miles per hour. So that's interesting. On that same regard, we're heading towards the weekend, and we've got a lot of events. We've got Greek festivals going up across the area, outdoor events that are going to have tents put up here today and tomorrow. The risk is there for more threats of gusty, damaging winds tomorrow as well. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute here. But Evan, I want you to just talk a little bit more about this while I set something up to talk about our severe threats for the next couple of days.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Tim. Yeah, we've got the Chesapeake Jubilee. We've got the down in Elizabeth City. I think we've got the Potato Festival. So a lot's going on as we get into the weekend. So let's get back to that severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect mainly for Chowan and Perquimans County. That runs until 7:30, so another 22 minutes. And we still have that one big cell now that is right along the county line between Chowan County and Perquimans County, around the town of Barber and heading over towards Yopum Station. We still have some of that pink showing up. So a little bit of a hail signature, 3/4 of an inch in diameter with that storm. As Tim was saying, the sampling from the radar, not a lot in some of those winds coming in at around, 20 miles per hour, but we're also quite a bit of ways away from the Weather Service radar site. So by that point, we're actually getting a little bit higher up into the atmosphere. But we can take a look at just, how tall that storm is. Kind of do this so we can see right through there. You can see we're getting up, that the heaviest of the rain, that's almost up to 40,000 feet. So that is a pretty good sized, thunderstorm right in there. And we are getting a little bit that hail core that is showing up in that pink right in there as well, getting close to Yopum Station. So that's why we have that severe thunderstorm warning, because this is a pretty large thunderstorm with those heights getting up there. Can take a look at one other product here, which also kind of shows us what the heights of those thunderstorms are. Again, we're probably going to see those registering, I would say same sort of thing, that we would probably, 44,000, 41,000 feet. So just to give you a perspective, we're talking here, 5,280 feet in a mile. So we're talking they're, close to 8 miles tall with some of these thunderstorms. So that also shows that when you get those larger thunderstorms, you can get those updrafts that produce that hail that is now pushing over towards Yopum Station. Last check, that was moving towards the east at around 25 miles per hour. So let's track that part of the storm. So that's going to ride right along the Albemarle Sound, bringing it over again towards Hertford. You're just on that northern edge of it around 720. Burgess, you're right in line at 722. New Hope proper, 732. And Jaycox coming up at around 742. So that storm holds together here. That would take it up to the severe thunderstorm warning time limit, which was 7:30. So that's another 20 minutes. So there may be a little bit of an issuance off towards the east, or a reissuance on the east side of that storm coming up here as we get, in about another 10 minutes or so. But that's the biggest storm that we have right now in our area. Heaviest of the rain is through Chowan County and Perquimans County, North Carolina. Have another little bit of a, shower there around Elizabeth City and just south and west of Weeksville and over towards Winslow. And then we have all that heavy rain that's still continuing to fall through Dare County right now. And I want to take another look. We haven't checked it in a little while. See what those 3-hour rainfall totals are looking like now. 3 inches. We hadn't seen the red before. We definitely didn't see it yesterday. So we're looking at 4 inches of rain. Again, fortunately, this is getting south of Whalebone Junction as you get closer to the Cape Hatteras National Seashore. So there are not as many homes there, but certainly around the Body Island Lighthouse and points northward, South Colony Drive, Old Oregon Inlet Road, and Highway 12. And you start to get into some of those communities there where you just have a few of those streets with a few of the cottages there. But I'm sure, if there are any folks who are vacationing down there, now as we're starting to get into the vacation season, and the people who live there, certainly some heavy rain. And then as we get back here over Roanoke Island, again, just heavy, heavy rain from Manio right along 64 over towards the Virginia Dare Bridge, the old bridge up around Mans Harbor. Not quite as much in that heavy rain, but really just copious amounts of rain. So I'm probably going to have our desk give a call down there to Dare County and see what's going on. We did have that traffic camera there. Let's see what it looks like. So this is in Manio. I mean, definitely rain coming down. This is just one of the traffic cameras that we have there. And let's see, I put in another one. So let me check that camera there. That's over towards Whalebone Junction. Let's take a look at that. Let's see, well, here's North Hatteras Village. Not seeing much there. Here we go, 158 in Whalebone Junction. The North Carolina cameras, they don't stream, so we just get still images every 10 or 15 seconds or so. But that right there is again on 158. Ignore the banner because I'm just changing the graphic in the background. Let's see over towards Oregon Inlet. Doesn't look like that camera is working there. That's on Highway 12 in Ocracoke, Buxton, and then we'll go back to Manio, and there you can see an updated picture coming in. It doesn't look too terrible there, which is certainly some good news, but considering all that rain that has been falling there, I'm surprised we're not seeing a little bit more in the way of some flooding there on some of the roadways. But again, 4 inches of rain over just 3 hours. That's a lot of rain, and that's why we do have that flash flood warning. Now you can see that the rain is starting to be a little bit lighter and it's pushing over towards Nag's Head. And so I will give you one more look before I toss it back to you, Tim, of the camera there, at the monument cam there at the Wright Brothers Memorial. And again, we're not seeing that heavy rain that was coming down earlier, but this is just one day and the potential for 2 more days of severe thunderstorms coming in, again, Friday and again Saturday. Some uncertainty about the timing of some of those storms, but Tim, I know we've been looking at it for the past few days, and you've been working on why we have the weather impact alert again for Friday and Saturday as well.
Yeah, and since Tuesday, we've been under a weather impact alert, and we expect to be in one tomorrow and again on Saturday for the pronounced threat of some strong to severe thunderstorms that present the hazards of damaging wind gusts. That's, I think, going to be the main hazard, especially tomorrow. And then a secondary hazard being large hail, which we've seen numerous occurrences of so far this evening, mainly down to the south. You can see where the active severe thunderstorm watch is still up for several more hours until midnight tonight. It does not include the 7 cities, okay, and Hampton Roads. Down to the south in northeastern North Carolina, it is included until midnight tonight. And that's because you saw where all that heavy rain and the clusters of thunderstorms were concentrated down south along the Albemarle Sound, and then a secondary, almost sector, if you will, along and well west of I-95 for a few isolated supercells that we've so far not seen many develop. There's a few that are north of Charlottesville, but we'll see if those do hold together. Jumping ahead to tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center does put out their threat category for the day ahead or the several days ahead. For tomorrow's outlook, pretty much the Virginia state line north is a level 2 out of a 5-tiered threat. Down to the south, maybe getting a break tomorrow, down to a level 1 out of 5. And then jumping into Saturday, the entire area is once again finding itself under a level 2 threat for severe weather. Now, I do think that the main hazards for tomorrow and again on Saturday, if we do see any development on Saturday, will be damaging wind gusts. And I'm going to show you why. Just the way that storms will be oriented and where they'll be developing from and moving to, I think will cause a damaging wind threat for the most part. But there could certainly be in some supercells some enhanced hail cores. And as we've seen already tonight, there wasn't a tornado threat, but we did see a couple tornado warnings, so we can never completely rule that out. But I think that's the lowest threat for tomorrow, and the street flooding threat tomorrow and again Saturday. I don't think we're going to see them set up and oriented over the same areas for a long duration of time. I think they're going to be moving with speed as they rip on through the area from the northwest to the southeast, I think is what we'll see. And here's the reason why. I titled this graphic Living on the Edge, and because that's exactly what we've been doing for the past couple of days. We've got a developing ridge of high pressure, a heat dome, which will be responsible as it dips a little bit farther to the north for allowing the heat to build. Tomorrow, highs in the low 90s. We'll have the humidity still in place, so it'll feel close to 100. But typically, when we get this type of setup, we get clusters of thunderstorms to develop and ride along the northern periphery of this ridge, call these ridge runners. And you can see modeling does show this. We've got several clusters developing. Sun sets, they activate again the next day. They develop along the boundary and push off to the south. And most times, these do pack a damaging wind threat. And you can see a prolonged damaging wind threat pretty much along the entire duration of the storm's track because it's picking up forward speed as it moves south and east. And I'm going to show you to you here because our in-house models are kind of indicating that could be a possibility tomorrow. Can't pin down exactly where that would develop, but somewhere in Hampton Roads in northeastern North Carolina, we could have a damaging wind threat again tomorrow with some supercells. So here's how it looks like tonight. Things quieting down very quickly. What's going on in northeastern North Carolina will likely take a little while longer to rain out, but certainly by midnight and by the expiration of that watch, things will be much quieter. Tomorrow morning on Friday, we'll start things off warm and humid in the low 70s. Lots of sunshine into early afternoon, temperatures spiking into the low to mid 90s. And then here is one of our ridge runners developing off probably near Charlottesville and ripping southeast along or south of I-64. And again, models here are saying in this run, this is where it could be. Could it be farther to the north? Sure. Could it be farther to the south? Sure. Could it be completely outside of our viewing area? Yes. It's going to be dependent on where that boundary, where the northern periphery of that ridge sets up tomorrow. But this is a kind of worrisome to watch this because you see this bowing signature that models signal here, and that is very gusty winds all along the eastern fringe of this cell, the supercell likely. And there could be some embedded hail too, but really it's going to be the wind threat. That's gone. Look at how quickly it moves offshore. It's going to be moving fast. We'll probably see storm motion on that between 50 and 60 miles per hour. They move very, very fast. By sunset, things should be quiet, so Friday night plans are okay. And models here show maybe some development overnight and early Saturday morning well to the north, but through most of the day, at least on this model, doesn't show a whole lot. In fact, the good news with Saturday is that in the afternoon, we'll probably see our winds take on more of a westerly component and see the humidity drop. So that would lower the amounts of instability, so that would kind of rob any storms that do try to develop from having much energy to take advantage of here as they blow on through. And then by Saturday night, things should be much, much quieter in those areas. But let's go back over to radar here because, again, we're just on day one, well, really day 4 of our stretch of 5 or 6 days under a weather impact alert. We've got our lone severe thunderstorm warning here that's into far southern portions of Perquimans now. And moving almost due east. Not seeing much in the way of wind threats, and even the hail core here has drastically been reduced. I mean, we're just seeing a signal here south of Hertford of maybe pea-sized hail making it to the ground there near Snug Harbor Road, Holiday Island Road, pushing towards Burgess. So that's a good sign there, Evan. I mean, the hail core is certainly falling apart, but very heavy rain is ongoing in that area, too.
That's right, and I want to get back over towards Dare County now that we're getting some more. Yeah, I want to get back over towards Dare County, Tim. And, you know, we've been talking about some of the heavy rain that has been falling there through Dare County, and we have that flash flood warning that is in effect. Know that we do have some trees and power lines that are down near Wanchese, and we've seen some pretty impressive hail. You know, some small hail in Manio, some larger hail over towards Columbia, and then we also have reports of some stalled vehicles in the high water there along South Old Oregon Inlet in South Nags Head. So that's, again, the area that we were talking about earlier, you know, Nags Head, Whalebone, South Old Oregon Inlet Road. We were talking about the heavy rain, those rainfall amounts that, again, the 3 hours that we were seeing into that area, you know, over 4 inches estimated by radar from the Body Island Lighthouse all the way up towards the 264 bridge there at Whalebone Junction. And now we do have reports of stalled vehicles in high water along South Old Oregon Inlet Roads. So from Whalebone up towards Nags Head, that's where we've seen some of that heaviest of the rain. And again, as I mentioned, we do have some trees and power lines down around Wanchese as well. So definitely Roanoke Island got the brunt of that storm. A little bit over here towards Shipyard Road, over towards mainland Dare County. You can see you get into that area right along 64. Not as much in the way of some population center there, but that area just saw, you know, tremendous amounts of rain from that one thunderstorm that just sat there. Again, that's the 3 hour. Let's see, the 6 hour, you know, a little bit higher, you know, in that 4 inch range as well. So again, most of that rain fell, you know, in just the span of a couple of hours there across Dare County, and Roanoke Island. That's where we have that flash flood warning that extends all the way until 9:15 tonight. So certainly we know that there is some standing water out there on the roads. We still have that one severe thunderstorm warning for just a little bit of Pasquotank County. It's mainly Perquimans County. Now south of Hertford, we mentioned that Hertford would just be on that northern edge of it, over towards Burgess, Snug Harbor. We're not seeing those pinks. I imagine at this point, based on what we're seeing, that the Weather Service will allow that to expire in about another 7 minutes. But this storm here, just south of Elizabeth City, I'll show you just the loop over the last hour, and you'll be able to see, how that one has kind of flared up a little bit. It was, yeah.
We're going to pop on air real quick to do a quick cut in under 30 seconds. So we'll pop in on air and do that, and then we'll be back here on the stream. Good Thursday evening, folks. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandajis here with you. Myself and meteorologist Evan Stewart are streaming on 13 News Now Plus, but I wanted to jump over here on air and let you know about a severe thunderstorm warning that's still up for just a little while longer until 7:30 for Pasquotank and Perquimans County. We've been watching this cell that's set up just to the south of Hertford here. It's had the history of producing some small hail, very heavy rain, and the potential of some gusty winds. It is moving due east at 25 miles per hour, so headed towards Nixonton at 7:45 and Winslow just ahead of the top of the hour, in Weeksville just after the top of the hour there. But right now, that is the only severe thunderstorm that we have in our entire area. Most of the activity is set up along and south of the Albemarle Sound. Watching areas north, nothing really going on, but there is an active severe thunderstorm watch that's up for our southern cities and counties and off to the west until midnight tonight. You can join us back over on 13 News Now Plus. We'll be streaming for a little while longer talking about this threat, and we've got more threats for tomorrow and again on Saturday. Again, join us over on 13 News Now Plus. All right, folks, welcome back. We just dipped over on air and did a quick cut-in on that severe thunderstorm warning in far southern Perquimans and Pasquotank counties. That's just up for a couple more minutes until 7:30 for 5 more minutes. And we've determined that after that warning is allowed to expire, we're not seeing much more development that's encroaching on our area here in 13 News Now, our viewing area. So we're going to go ahead and conclude our streaming coverage after that severe thunderstorm warning is allowed to expire, because you look at radar here and there's not a whole lot going on elsewhere. I mean, off to the north and northwest, there's still the threat of some isolated severe storms, and that's just exactly what we find. An isolated severe thunderstorm now approaching Charlottesville that also does have a tornado warning on it too, but that is well to the northwest of Richmond, and that's the only cell that we can find. In our area, it's just that lone severe thunderstorm warning for this one cell that is pushing its way off to the east at around 25 miles per hour. Seeing a little bit of a heavier downpour and a cell developing that's approaching southern Elizabeth City and pushing south towards the Sound, moving towards Riddle and Poplar Branch. But that is non-severe at this time. Could it become severe? It could, as it moves over into coastal Currituck County within the next hour or so. But main threats are going to be ongoing for gusty winds and even the potential of some hail. We can see if this one is even producing any hail. Yeah, there's a little bit of hail signature here south of Elizabeth City, north of Nixonton, but right now it is rather small and not a major threat. We did have some signatures earlier of some much larger hail in some of these cells that were in Bertie County and pushing their way to the east, but all of which have since weakened, and you can see that most of these are on a weakening trend right now. In fact, we look at the lightning strikes over the last hour. An hour ago, those were upwards of 1,500 strikes. They have almost been cut in half, so that is a sign that this line is beginning to rain itself out and weaken as we are now 40 minutes out from sunset. That's not to say we can't see a few more try to develop to the north in this untapped atmosphere, but it looks to be the focal point is the Albemarle Sound and points south. So that's where most of the activity will be going forward, I think, until we get towards sunset, with the exception of what's going out near Charlottesville, Evan.
Yeah, Tim, one thing I want to look at now is I'm using our Jordan Bridge camera that is, of course, in Chesapeake and Portsmouth, looking to the south. We talked earlier about how that thunderstorm is about 8 miles tall. This is what the thunderstorm looks like from Chesapeake. And again, you can see the top of that thunderstorm out there. If we can take that graphic full, there you go. You can see just that tall, billowing thunderstorm off in the distance. Pretty impressive looking on, on the camera. You can see sort of the little overshooting tops, as we call them, here with the top of the anvil of the thunderstorm there. That's the one, again, that is down all the way south of Elizabeth City, which is still holding its own. I think that's one that we're going to have to continue to watch, here from Elizabeth City over towards Weeksville. As it pushes over towards the east, it'll move into southern Camden County. Then we have another one here in southern Currituck County that is just coming ashore around Olds and Mamie and Spot and Harbinger down towards Point Harbor, approaching the Wright Memorial Bridge. So we've got that thunderstorm to watch. And the good news is the one that was over Terrell County, the rotation with that has weakened, but there's still heavy, heavy rain over Terrell County now around Columbia and over towards Cresswell and Frying Pan. And the one that is over Perquimans County continues to weaken. Still getting some heavy rain around Burgess and just south of New Hope proper. And that takes us down Harvey Point Road over towards Hunt Club Trail. Probably, it will cross over the river and affect southern areas around Jaycox, but that one is certainly weakening. But the one around Weeksville, as you get just south of Elizabeth City, I actually have a camera from Elizabeth City that we can take a look at and see what's going on down there. This is out at the harbor. So, they're setting up for the Potato Festival down there, and this is courtesy of visitelizabethcity.com. I think we're getting towards that sunset, so the camera is just pointing off into that direction, so we're getting a little bit of a glare there, but that's down in Elizabeth City where we are just seeing that edge of that storm and the very heavy rain that extends down towards Weeksville. Again, not severe, but likely seeing, there has been some lightning with that, but certainly the heavy rain from Elizabeth City down past the Coast Guard base, down 334 to Weeksville, getting down towards Sound Neck Road and Bluff Point Road down towards the Albemarle Sound and the river. And now that we are at 7:30, that warning has been allowed to expire, Tim. The only warning that we have left is the flash flood warning for Dare County. That includes Roanoke Island and the Outer Banks of Dare, mainly from Kill Devil Hills down towards Oregon Inlet, where fortunately a lot of that heavy rain has pushed out into the Atlantic.
Yeah, and that'll be the ongoing threat here, I think, as we go through the remainder of the evening and push past sunset. What's going on to the south here? We'll have to monitor, especially that cell south of Elizabeth City as it drifts towards Camden and Currituck County, southern tips of those counties in the next hour or so before it pushes offshore. But again, we are moving into sunset, so that should lessen the threat a little bit. Regardless, very heavy rain in those areas, frequent lightning once again being a threat too. And there could be some gusty winds, and we have seen a very weak signature of some hail potentially in this cell here. You can see that is showing up on the small size, maybe pea-sized, if anything, reaching the ground here south of Elizabeth City. Pairing that with winds that are gusting, according to radar, that could be getting up to 30, 35, maybe as high as 40 miles per hour. So all non-severe, not hitting the severe criteria on this particular cell, but it's probably certainly a strengthening storm out there right now as it's moving into an untapped area. To the south here in Terrell County, Columbia, once again getting hit with a strong cell. No warning on this. This is almost moving due east and will eventually hold together and hit portions of Dare County. And as Evan mentioned, there's still this ongoing flash flood warning in portions of Dare County, Roanoke Island, Nags Head, and Point South for what has been a very wet last 6 hours for you folks. I've gotten 3, 4, 5, maybe some areas seeing 6 inches of rain. And it is still coming on down there and likely will be a little bit more. So flash flooding could certainly be a problem. Aside from that, seeing a few downpours trying to build on into Hertford and even the southern tip of Gates County, northern portions of Chowan near Ryland, out by Hertford, seeing a few downpours developing there. Again, all of these may try to get their act together and push eastwards, but the potential of these intensifying a great deal are rather low. But keep in mind for the next couple hours that threat is there until midnight at least for some severe weather with an ongoing severe thunderstorm watch. Well to the north and west, which is the area we've been watching for any activity to develop and move into the rest of our viewing area, there has really been a lack of development. There's been a couple supercells here north of Charlottesville. Those are still holding together, but they are hours out of even Richmond. So by the time they were to make it here, if they were to hold together, there would be some remnant gusty downpours, if anything at all. So I'm not expecting that severe weather to make it into our region tonight. But that being said, we'll monitor what's going on in northeastern North Carolina over the coming hours. No current warnings up in our viewing area right now, severe thunderstorm warnings at least. But the ongoing watch is up until midnight tonight. Evan or I, or probably me, will chime in here every couple hours and give you an update on streaming. And if there's any other warnings, you'll see us on the television side as well. We thank you for joining us on our streaming site, 13 News Now Plus, where we can kind of get into the weeds here and talk in depth about the weather situation and do a little bit of explaining and education on the weather overall. There's a lot of weather enthusiasts out there, so we're glad that we can kind of quench that thirst that's up across the internet for watching streams like this. So appreciate it.
And I'm sure we'll probably be back tomorrow afternoon and possibly Saturday as well.
That's right.